So much. New estimate shows San Diego population is set to increase over the next 20 years. Before dropping, here to weigh in on how this will impact the county is SANDAG board member Terry Gaasterland. Good morning to you, Terry. Post ho to you.
Yeah, good morning, Paul. It's been a really great long holiday weekend here. I hope you had the same.
Absolutely. Good to have family and friends around. But let's talk about how many family and friends we're going to have around in the next. The Union Tribune had a projection of our growth, and then we're going to see growth as it relates to population over the next 20 years. But then it starts to level off and drop to the point where, well down the road, we're going to be in a similar size that we are now. How does that change what you want to do?
Well, let's think about where did those numbers come from and what do they mean in terms of where we want to go next. So the numbers came from what's called a data science group inside the San Diego Association of Governments, SANDAG. What they do is model based on all sorts of economic factors, how people are going to move into the area, out of the area, what attracts them. And that model that they put together has now said something very different from what an earlier version of this model said 2 years ago. And the SANDAG board, which I'm on, received a report on this just before the holidays started. What it comes down to is the bottom line is the expected growth in our region is 140,000 people total new between now and 2042. That is a small growth rate and much smaller than other cities in the United States. That's actually good for San Diego. We like the size we are, most people who live here, that's why we live here. And what this means is that as we plan for transit and plan for housing going forward as needed, we can rethink it and take a breath and pause. So what does that mean? It means that for our highways, we can make one of our top priorities reducing traffic congestion with smart engineering. So make those interchanges getting on and off the highways better. I'd like to see that 10 years from now. Absolutely no backups anywhere in San Diego. Imagine if we could achieve that. The other place where it impacts is housing. It lets us take a breath and say, wait, what kind of housing do we need? For whom? Are small studio units crammed into high-rise buildings that are very dense in places that are already dense the right kind of housing for our area? Not if we're growing at this slow rate. Those studio apartments may work for some and be affordable for single people starting out, for older people who want to downsize, but for growing families or for people living kind of the bulk of their life where you've got your surfboard, you've got your two bicycles, one's an e-bike and one is not. You need some space. So I'm hoping that this new view lets us really look at what are our priorities. We've got some time to do it. We're in year 3 of our housing planning cycle, and we're going to be rethinking our RTP in these next steps.
Terry, you know, I've become very leery of, after the COVID and watching all the models crash and burn, you know, the projected models, this, that, and the other. I've become leery of models such as these. But I'm curious, is this model taking into account just the fact that we as a people are having fewer children, or does it take into account also the fact that a lot of people are just not going to want to live in California in the future, that it's not the golden state from their perspective, be it taxes or whatever, there's better economic opportunities elsewhere in the country? Or does it even factor in any of that?
Yeah, It really goes to the third thing you said right there, and that's how many people coming into the area. There are a lot of jobs in our area where people live in Riverside. They may travel down into San Diego for a day or two. UCSD is a really good example, University of California, San Diego. All of the people who manage funds, all the grant managers, nearly all, you know, there are always exceptions, they live wherever in the country they want to live. That means they don't need to be in San Diego. This flexibility and freedom to gain new skills and take new jobs that allow us to be where we want to be when we're doing the work is a game changer. On top of that, the ratio of the median the median cost of a house in San Diego right now and the median salary is out of whack. It is so out of alignment that I can only think, as a person who does think about numbers and models, that it's got to topple over at some point.
Right.
And so that means we need a really firm foundation of housing that makes sense and transit that makes sense.
Well, Terry, we got to call it a conversation, but it does raise the question if our population is going to level off to the level of this article, and I suggest everybody read it in UT. Well, then a question: why should we turn our economy upside down for the kind of transit options that you guys are floating around?
Absolutely. Yep. We really need to think about it, and we have time. So, Paul, you're asking all the right questions. Let's keep asking them.
Fair enough. I appreciate the time. I wish you I guess now that we're past Christmas, I wish you a Happy New Year, and I hope to see you in studio in the not-so-distant future, okay?
Absolutely. Happy New Year to you, too.
All right. See you in 24. All right. We'll be right back with more Good Morning San Diego.